It's probably it's probably not all that sunny and bright either. And let me give a quick content and trigger warning for suicide and for global climate change, because I can see how people can be triggered by those things, especially, well, obviously the unaliving part is very significant. But when it comes to the global climate change, that's something that depresses me. It triggers me. What's them commercials that they run sometimes when I'm watching the Psych Marathon on the Hallmark Channel? It's the commercial about the polar bears, and it says, "We can't let them go extinct." I'm sorry, what the fuck am I supposed to do about the polar bears? Like, trust me, if I could save a polar bear, I would. If I could put back the ice that all of the fossil fuel emissions has melted away from the poles, I absolutely would. But those things, those commercials and those sort of put upons onto the audience, onto regular people, like, you can save the polar bears, you can save the lions. No, the fuck, I cannot under capitalism. I can't. I'm unable. And that does make me tremendously sad. But going back to my story, my apologies for going on a slight tangent. Will, if you could pop up that nature.com for me, please, bro. Now, nature.com, you got to actually pay money to really get into the thing. But they will give you a little sneak peek here. But I think I saw a deeper explainer by a Twitterer user, which I will find so I can summarily credit said person. But let's read the headline there real quick and I'll get into the overview. So it says higher temperatures increase suicide rates in the United States and Mexico. And I saw that and that really caught my attention because I was like, how did we arrive here? So let me tell you how we arrived here. So what they basically break down is this. It says linkages between climate and mental health are often theorized but remain poorly quantified. In particular, it is unknown whether the rate of suicide, which is a leading cause of death globally, is systematically affected by climate conditions. Using comprehensive data from multiple decades from both the United States and Mexico, we find that suicide rates rise 0.7% in US counties and 2.1% in Mexico municipalities for a 1 degree Celsius increase in monthly average temperature. This effect is similar to hotter versus cooler regions and has not diminished over time, indicating limited historical adaptation. Analysis of depressive language of over 600 million social media updates further suggests that mental well being deteriorates during warmer periods. We project that the unmitigated climate change could result in a combined 9 to 40,000 additional suicides across both the United States and Mexico. And I found this interesting thread, and I don't have the tweets pulled up. Well, I'm just going to read from it. From this Twitter account, Defiance. And it says that no one is talking about climate change, how it is driving a surge in U.S. suicides. And a couple of things that this Twitter user pulled out of this nature.com article is that part of what scientists theorize is driving this link between a rise in suicides and global temperature rise is that biologically, it is harder for people to get good rest when they are hot, right? Like if you don't have access to air conditioning and it's hot, it's summer in recent decades, hell, even in the most recent decade, we are experiencing some of the hottest temperatures on record ever recorded. And I know humans have only been really recording temperature change maybe 100 50 years ish and some change. But regardless, we are consistently experiencing year over year the hottest global temperatures that has been recorded in recent human history. And the rise, or at least the link, the theorized link of these rise in suicides pertaining to climate change, again, from a biological perspective, it's harder for people to rest. And a lack of rest or sleep deprivation helps to contribute to deteriorating mental health issues, right? Like if you don't sleep well, if you don't rest well, then you're not going to be functioning all that great. The surge in suicide, though, is most pronounced amongst young people. 22% of high schoolers seriously considered attempting suicide, 18% made suicide plan, and an astounding 10% actually attempted suicide. This is extrapolated from the numbers provided in the nature.com piece. It says fossil fueled heating is not just driving extreme weather deaths, it's also driving hopelessness and despair. And I think that is a very critical point that we need to sort of focus on here because the kids are not dumb out here, y'all. I mean, we are not dumb either. I mean, the people that are our age and who are in charge, yes, they are dumb, but the kids are not dumb. You know, we have been sort of beat down. I don't know what have we been worn down, y'all? Has capitalism worn us down? And the thing is, I think capitalism is wearing people down at younger and younger ages. And I feel as though Gen Z is is expressing this in ways that I think we absolutely need to pay attention to because I feel as though the kids are telling us pretty fucking clearly what the problems are as they see them, what their specific problems are. And they are also telling us that the solutions being come up with by the adults in charge are just absolutely not going to cut it. And specifically around the issue of climate change, we can look at this also through the lens of gun violence. We can look at this through the lens of lack of access to healthcare and mental health care. But specifically around the issue of climate change, the kids see this very, very clearly. Hey, it's been drilled in their little heads since kindergarten, since their first Earth Day, right? About fossil fuels and greenhouse gases. So the kids logically would say, hey, what are we doing to cut back on fossil fuels? And the grown-ups say, nothing. We're not doing shit. What you mean? There's still gas out here to be drilled, little kids. There's still natural petrol out there in the ocean and in the Alaska wilderness and in the Gulf of Mexico and down by Guyana and in different places. There's still petrol to be extracted, kids. What you mean? What we gonna do about the fossil fuels? We gonna get more of them bitches, says capitalism, right? But the kids is like, but we're seeing these terrible commercials on television about the polar bears and the giraffes, and we get to read in our weekly reader or whatever the children's media outlet is that they get in schools. I know when I was in school it was called the weekly reader. I am probably dating myself, something terrible, but dog, I can remember reading the weekly reader in the third grade and it giving me very dim statistics about levels of recycling, about the amount of plastics in the waters, about at the time acid rain. Gen X, do you guys remember acid rain falling on our heads? The CFC, the chlorofluorocarbons that were eating a hole in the atmosphere and the ozone. Y'all remember all those autumn stories that scared the shit out of Generation X when we was kids? Well, imagine the shit that your kids are being having the shit scared out of them pertaining to the earth, pertaining to collapsing ecosystems, pertaining to the Amazon just being deforested to all get out, everywhere being deforested. There was a recent birth at a zoo. Jesus, I don't even know what fucking zoo it was. Somewhere in America. Aren't don't y'all love the way I report? I'm on top of all the facts here. At a zoo in America recently, there was a litter or two cubs or whatever of some big cats being born. Again, when I see these stories, I kind of tune them out because they make me fucking sad. But the thing that I took away from the story was there were only 100 of these particular species of wild big cat left in the wild. 100! And if they don't mate them and reproduce them in zoos, no more of this particular big cat. And trust me, I think I'm intentionally not remembering the species of the animal, specifically a big cat, because I like big cats. I love the tigers, love the lions, the ocelots, jaguars, cheetahs. I fuck with them all. Mountain lions. It devastates me to hear that there was a 100 of anything left in the wild. So imagine the messages that the kids are getting, right? And when the kids and so you couple that with school shootings, you couple that with kids experiencing tremendous, not in addition to school shootings, the ways that children experience gun violence in this country, the threat of mass shootings in their schools, a thing, the COVID crisis, of which children very clearly saw the way that the United States government and capitalism was quite content to let over 1 million people die without a whole lot of care or appropriate mourning, or even, God forbid, steps to prevent such a pandemic from happening again in the future. The children have seen all of this. They witness the apathy. They see all this faux moral outrage, coming from the right, specifically surrounding shit like abortion and like anti-trans laws, and still trying to go after the gays, you know what I mean, for gay marriage and gay adoption and things like that. The kids see all of this, and I can understand why they feel hopeless and despondent. So as our society crumbles, our climate is crumbling as well, and the children are feeling fraught and hopeless. And guess what, y'all? I can't even blame them. Now, clearly, we don't want kids unaliving themselves. We don't want anybody to unalive themselves. But we have to understand that these folks have very legitimate concerns. Like, I don't even think that they're nihilists in a sense. I think they're looking at the situation very clear eyed. And in my opinion, reasonable. Now, the unaliving is not reasonable, but it's a feature of the despondency. So what do we do to remedy that? I mean, apparently our government don't want to do nothing to remedy it. Like there's not a lot being done surrounding kids taking their own lives. There is more being done about children potentially overdosing in the school setting. And again, even the overdoses themselves should be a very clear clarion call as to the ways in which children are being broken down mentally just from observing the environment around them, let alone whatever personal trauma they may experience. But even if they don't personally have specific trauma, like familial trauma or abuse or anything like that, they don't even have to have any of that to be fucking depressed, to be depressed, because they can observe. Kids ain't dumb out here, like I said. What can we do? I don't know if we can raise the spirits of the youth, but maybe we can actually take steps to show them that we actually care about the planet. And again, I say we, I know we care. What can we do to force capitalism's hand, to force the hand of the US government, the Mexican government, Canadian government, to force the hand of the global powers that be, to understand that this is a freight train with the brakes cut in terms of where we are headed pertaining to impending climate catastrophe. It makes me despondent that there's not enough being done. And what do we do every day, everybody? Some of y'all might have hybrid vehicles, and that's cool. I know we try to recycle. I don't know what the fuck else we can do personally within our own power to do something to sort of mitigate what's happening around the planet. I don't really think there's much that we can do, because the biggest polluters of this planet are the US military And who else is the biggest polluter? Oh, yes, fossil fuel emitters. Oh, the LNG, the liquid natural gas. That's not good for the planet, and that's something that America is fully invested in. It's just amazing to me that we are seriously going to allow 20,000, 50,000. Say, oh, let's give it a big number, 100,000, 100,000 assholes, 100,000 capitalist pieces of shit who have no regard for life, be it human, animal, plant, or otherwise. We are going to let them really ruin this planet. And it's 7 billion of us. You think it's how many capitalist dickheads specifically that you guys think are the ones that are main ones driving? Let's put a number on it. Because I mean, and YouTube might yank me for this shit. I don't care. I do suggest violence. I don't know what else to say. I don't know what else to do because we cannot be 7 billion suckers getting punked by 100,000 people. Like, really? It's time to coupe les têtes. It's time to invest in the guillotines. Invest in the guillotines and the very sharp blades. Because this cannot be allowed to run. And listen, I have accepted where I am in the scheme of things. We cannot allow this to run for y'all's kids. And for y'all grandkids, some of y'all got grandkids. Try to check in with the young people in your life and even ask them how they feel about the issues surrounding climate change. Some of them might be very in tune with it, some of them may not be in tune with it at all. And I'm not suggesting be alarmist to the kids, but at least for the ones that are legitimately concerned, give some validation to their feelings. Don't just tell them it's going to be okay. I get see that's how you know I'm not a parent because I guess that's what parents do. They just tell it's going to be okay. It's going to be all right. Don't worry about it. No, worry about the shit. This is serious. But don't worry about it to the point where ideations of self-harm come into play. But I think that when talking about getting our youth access to mental health care, we cannot omit the toll that what they are concerned about pertaining to the looming climate catastrophes. We can't just discount that or dismiss it. Some people might be like, "Well, honey, to their child, well, honey, that's such a big issue. You shouldn't worry about that." No, if the kid is worried about it, give the kid validation that it is a legitimate thing to be concerned about, and you understand why this scares them so. But try to get them mental health access, which should be available for everybody especially children, but we live in America, so it's not. Your kid can probably easier get a gun instead of access to mental health care, and therein lies the problem. Therein lies part of the reason we see a rise in suicides because guns are easily to get to, more easy to get to in this country than actually getting some mental health services.